The crew feared the new alien predator until the human fed it snacks and named it Pudding. Then they feared the human instead, which was probably the correct survival response all along. Let me tell you about the day I learned that humans have absolutely no functional threat assessment capabilities and somehow survive anyway through pure audacity and aggressive friendship. Spoiler alert, the deadliest thing on our ship wasn't the apex predator from a death world. It was the engineer who decided to adopt it. My name is Vrek, head of xenobiology research aboard the exploration vessel Wandering Star, and I have studied dangerous lifeforms for 23 standard cycles. I have documented predators from 47 different ecosystems, analyzed hunting behaviors across 89 species, and personally survived 3 separate incidents where my research subjects decided I looked edible. Point is, I know dangerous when I see it. I understand predator biology, what makes something an efficient killer, what signals indicate genuine threat versus mere posturing. I can assess a lifeform's danger level within minutes of observation and adjust safety protocols accordingly. What I cannot do, apparently, is predict what humans will consider an appropriate pet. The creature came aboard during our survey mission to Cathis 7, an uncharted world in the outer spiral with remarkable biodiversity and approximately 40 different species that could kill an unprepared explorer in under 2 minutes. We were collecting samples, documenting ecosystems, doing standard xenobiology research that usually involved a lot of careful observation from safe distances. But then Dr. Yalith, our Vraxian field researcher, made an interesting discovery. She found evidence of a predator species that shouldn't exist according to standard evolutionary models. Too large for the available prey base, too aggressive for the ecosystem's apparent stability, too efficient for the competition it faced. Something about the numbers didn't add up, which meant we needed a live specimen for study. The containment team brought it aboard in a reinforced transport crate, and I got my first look at what would become the second most dangerous thing on the ship. It was maybe 2 meters long, quadrupedal, covered in dense black fur that seemed to absorb light, with a muscular build that suggested explosive power. The head was broad and flat, featuring a mouth full of serrated teeth designed for tearing flesh, and 6 eyes arranged in pairs that provided nearly 360-degree vision. The limbs ended in retractable claws that could punch through standard hull plating based on preliminary analysis. Most unsettling were the spines, rows of crystalline protrusions along its back that apparently could be launched as projectiles when threatened, each one coated in a paralytic toxin that would drop most species into unconsciousness within seconds. Magnificent, I said, watching it pace inside the containment crate with fluid, deadly grace. This is an apex predator, possibly the most dangerous life form on Cathis 7. Look at that musculature, those sensory organs, those natural weapons. This is evolution optimized for killing. It's also terrified, said a voice behind me, and I turned to find engineer Alex Chen watching the creature with an expression I couldn't quite read. Terrified, I repeated. It's an apex predator. Apex predators don't experience fear, they create it. Everything experiences fear, Chen said quietly. And that thing is definitely scared. Look at its body language, the way it's moving. That's not hunting behavior, that's defensive posturing from something that's been captured and doesn't understand what's happening. I looked back at the creature, trying to see what Chen was seeing. It was pacing, yes, but the movement did seem agitated rather than predatory. The spines along its back were partially raised, a defensive stance. And it kept making this low vocalization, a rumbling sound that my xenobiology training identified as a threat display but could just as easily be distress signaling. It's still extremely dangerous, I said. Those claws could disembowel most species. The toxin on those spines would incapacitate anyone who got hit. And we have no idea about its dietary requirements, territorial instincts, or aggression triggers. This needs to be kept in maximum security containment until we understand its behavior patterns, or, Chen said, we could try not treating it like a monster and see if it responds to kindness. I stared at Chen, trying to determine if that was a joke. Chen was relatively new to the crew, only been aboard for 3 months, but had proven to be an excellent engineer with an unfortunate tendency to anthropomorphize everything from the ship's recycling system to the automated maintenance drones. It's not capable of responding to kindness, I said slowly, using my explaining to children voice. It's a predator. It responds to threats, prey signals, territorial challenges. Kindness is a complex social behavior that requires cognitive capacity for empathy and reciprocity. This creature has neither. You don't know that, Chen said. You haven't even tried communicating with it yet. You just locked it in a box and declared it dangerous because it is dangerous. Objectively, measurably dangerous. Those are facts, not assumptions. Dangerous doesn't mean evil, Chen said. It just means capable of causing harm. Lots of things are dangerous. Plasma torches are dangerous. We still use them carefully rather than locking them away forever. Plasma torches don't have autonomous hunting instincts and a biological imperative to eat other living things. Fair point, Chen acknowledged. But I still think you're wrong about it being unable to respond to kindness. Predators on Earth, even apex predators, can form bonds with other species. We have documented cases of unlikely friendships, interspecies cooperation, even adoption behaviors across species lines. Earth is a death world with bizarre evolutionary quirks, I said. That's not applicable to normal ecosystems or standard predator behavior, want to bet? Chen asked, and something about the way that was phrased made my research instincts activate warning protocols. Bet on what exactly? That I can't befriend that creature within 1 week. If I succeed, you admit that human assessment of animal behavior has merit and stop dismissing our perspectives on xenobiology. If I fail, I'll stop questioning your research methods and admit that humans are too sentimental about predators. I should have said no. Should have explained that this was a research specimen, not a social experiment, that safety protocols existed for reasons, that betting on befriending an apex predator was insane even by human standards. Should have refused completely and established clear boundaries about appropriate interactions with dangerous life forms. 1 week, I said instead, because apparently my scientific curiosity was stronger than my survival instincts. But you follow all safety protocols, maintain appropriate barriers, and if it shows any signs of aggression you back off immediately. And you wear full protective gear at all times. Deal, Chen said, extending a hand for that bizarre human gesture they called a handshake. I touched Chen's hand briefly, sealing what was probably the worst decision I'd made since deciding to study dangerous life forms professionally. Chen started immediately, spending every off-shift hour in the observation room adjacent to the creature's containment cell. Just sitting there, maintaining a non-threatening posture, occasionally talking in that soft voice humans used for soothing. The creature initially ignored Chen completely, continuing its agitated pacing and defensive displays. But gradually, over the first 2 days, it started showing curiosity. It would pause its movement to observe Chen, its 6 eyes tracking the human's position, its body language shifting from defensive to alert but not threatened. On day 3, Chen brought food. Not our standard research nutrition pellets, but actual fresh protein synthesized in the galley. The smell was apparently irresistible because the creature immediately approached the containment barrier, all 6 eyes focused on Chen with sudden intense interest. Hey there, Chen said softly, holding up a piece of synthesized meat. You hungry? Want a snack? The creature made that rumbling vocalization again, but this time it sounded different, less threatening, more like inquiry than challenge. Chen carefully activated the feeding port, a small reinforced opening designed for introducing food without opening the main containment field. The meat was placed in the port's buffer zone. The creature snatched it immediately, retreating to the far corner of the cell to consume it. It ate the meat in 3 bites, then returned to the barrier, making that sound again, clearly wanting more. Yeah, that's what I thought, Chen said with satisfaction. You're not aggressive, you're just hungry and scared. Nobody's been feeding you properly, have they? We've been providing adequate nutrition, I protested from my observation post. Standard research protocols require measured caloric intake based on estimated metabolic needs. It's starving, Chen said flatly. Look at its body condition. You can see muscle definition that shouldn't be visible if it was properly fed. You're undernourishing it because you calculated requirements based on terrestrial analogs instead of actual observation of this species' needs. I pulled up our feeding calculations, reviewing them with new perspective. Chen was right, we had been using standard formulas based on Earth predators of similar size. But if this species had higher metabolic requirements, which the muscle density suggested was possible, then our feeding schedule would be insufficient. I'll adjust the nutrition protocols, I said quietly. Good, Chen said. And I'm going to keep bringing it snacks because clearly it needs more calories than your formulas provide. Over the next several days, Chen established a routine. Regular visits, always bringing food, always speaking in that soft soothing tone, always maintaining calm non-threatening body language. And the creature responded, its agitation decreased, the defensive spine displays became less frequent, and it started approaching the barrier whenever Chen arrived, clearly anticipating food and interaction. By day 6, the creature was making a completely different sound, a sort of rhythmic rumbling that Dr. Yaleth identified as similar to contentment vocalizations in some species. It would press against the containment barrier when Chen visited, as close as it could get to the human, its eyes tracking Chen's movements with what looked remarkably like affection. "I think it likes me," Chen announced during one visit, smiling at the creature like they were old friends. "It's responding to food rewards," I said, maintaining scientific objectivity. "That's classical conditioning, not genuine social bonding, it's both," Chen corrected. "Yes, it associates me with food, but look at its behavior. That's not just appetite, that's social engagement. It wants interaction, not just calories," as if to prove Chen's point, the creature made that rumbling sound again, then did something unexpected. It rolled onto its back, exposing its vulnerable underside, a gesture that was almost universal across predator species as a sign of trust and submission. "Oh my God," Chen said, voice full of delight. "You want belly rubs, don't you? You're just a big deadly puppy who wants attention, don't you dare," I said, but Chen was already requesting permission to enter the containment cell. "Absolutely not. That's a violation of every safety protocol we have. You are not going in there with an apex predator, it trusts me," Chen said. "Look at it. That's not aggressive posturing, that's friendly behavior. I can interact with it safely." "You are basing that assessment on your interpretation of its body language, which could be completely wrong. We don't understand this species' social signals. That could be a hunting strategy for all we know." "It's not a hunting strategy," Chen said with absolute certainty. "I know scared, I know aggressive, and I know friendly. That thing is being friendly. It wants social interaction, and I'm going to provide it." The argument continued for another 20 minutes, with me citing safety regulations and Chen citing behavioral observations. Eventually we reached a compromise. Chen could enter the containment cell, but only with full protective gear, emergency response team on standby, and me ready to activate emergency containment fields at the first sign of aggression. Chen entered the cell in full environmental suit, moving slowly and carefully, hands visible and non-threatening. The creature watched from its position on the floor, still on its back, still making that rumbling sound. When Chen was close enough, Chen knelt down, extended one gloved hand, and actually touched the creature's exposed belly. It could have been a massacre. The creature could have closed those jaws on Chen's arm, could have used those retractable claws to tear through the suit, could have launched those toxin-coated spines at point-blank range. It did none of those things. Instead, it made a sound I can only describe as a purr, a deep resonant vibration that indicated contentment. Its 6 eyes half closed in apparent pleasure, and it actually leaned into Chen's touch, clearly enjoying the physical contact. "Hi baby," Chen said softly, stroking the creature's belly. "You're not so scary, are you? You're just lonely and hungry and scared. Nobody's been nice to you. Well, that changes now. I'm going to take good care of you." "This is insane," Dr. Yaleth said from the observation room. "That thing could kill Engineer Chen in seconds, and Chen is petting it like some kind of domesticated companion animal." "Humans do this," said Captain Thorne, our Krellian commanding officer, who had been watching the entire interaction. "They form inappropriate bonds with dangerous creatures. It's a known human behavioral pattern. Something about their evolution on a death world makes them unable to properly assess threat, but it's working," I said, watching Chen interact with the creature with obvious mutual affection. "The creature is responding positively to Chen's approach. That suggests Chen's assessment of its social capacity was correct and mine was wrong, or it suggests the creature is clever enough to lure prey into complacency before attacking," Thorne said darkly. "We should maintain maximum caution," but the attack never came. Chen spent another 30 minutes in the cell, interacting with the creature, which responded with increasingly obvious affection, rubbing its head against Chen's suit, making that purring sound continuously, generally behaving nothing like a terrifying apex predator and exactly like something that desperately wanted companionship. When Chen finally exited the cell, I had to admit defeat. "You were right. It does respond to kindness. I don't understand the evolutionary benefit of an apex predator having social bonding capabilities with other species, but the evidence is undeniable." "Thank you," Chen said. "And now that we've established I was right, I have a request." "What request?" "I want to name it. If it's going to be more than just a research specimen, it deserves a name." "Name it whatever you want," I said, already updating my research notes with observations about unexpected social capacity in apex predators. I'm calling it Pudding, Chen announced. The entire observation room went silent. Captain Thorne made a choking sound. Dr. Yalitha's crystalline structure flashed bright red in shock. And I just stared at Chen, trying to process that statement. You want to name a 2-meter apex predator, with serrated teeth and toxin-coated projectile spines, something that could kill most of this crew in seconds, Pudding? I said slowly. Yes, Chen said firmly. Look at it. It's soft and dark and sweet once you get to know it. That's basically pudding. Pudding is a human dessert food, I said. It's a sweet, soft, non-threatening consumable. That thing is none of those adjectives, but it could be, Chen said. With proper socialization, adequate nutrition, and regular interaction, Pudding could be the sweetest creature on this ship. It could also be the deadliest creature on this ship, Thorne pointed out. It still has all those natural weapons. It's still a predator. Giving it a cute name doesn't change its fundamental nature, no, but treating it with respect and kindness instead of fear changes how it responds to us, Chen said. Pudding is capable of violence, sure. But Pudding is also capable of affection, trust, and apparently really enjoys belly rubs. Those capacities matter just as much as the dangerous ones, I wanted to argue, wanted to insist this was inappropriate anthropomorphization of a research specimen, wanted to maintain scientific objectivity about the creature's nature and capabilities. But watching the creature, Pudding, press against the containment barrier trying to stay close to Chen even after Chen had exited the cell, I couldn't deny that something real had developed. Some kind of bond that transcended simple food reward conditioning. Fine, I said. It's Pudding. But it stays in containment until we understand more about its behavior patterns and social needs. We're not letting an apex predator roam the ship freely just because it likes one human. That lasted exactly 4 more days. On day 11 of Pudding's captivity, Chen came to me with another request, more free-range time for Pudding, supervised of course, because being locked in a cell was cruel for a creature that was clearly social and needed more stimulation than a containment unit provided. I refused initially, citing safety concerns and proper research protocols. But Chen was persistent, and eventually I agreed to a supervised trial period where Pudding could spend time in one of the cargo bays under careful observation. The trial was scheduled for the following day, but Pudding apparently had other plans. That night, approximately 0300 ship time, alarms started blaring throughout the vessel. Containment breach, Xenobiology lab. All security personnel respond immediately. All crew evacuate affected sections. I ran to the lab, arriving to find the containment cell empty, the reinforced barrier somehow disabled, and Pudding nowhere in sight. Security teams were scrambling, weapons drawn, searching for the escaped predator that was now loose somewhere on the ship. How did it get out? Captain Thorne demanded. The containment system is designed to hold creatures twice its size and strength. I don't know, I said, reviewing system logs. The barrier was deactivated from inside the cell. But Pudding doesn't have the cognitive capacity to understand our technology, much less hack containment systems. Then someone let it out, Thorne said grimly. Find it before it hurts someone. And find out who's responsible for this breach. The search took 20 minutes, and we found Pudding exactly where I should have predicted. In Engineer Chen's quarters, curled up on Chen's bed, making that purring sound while Chen slept peacefully beside the deadly predator. Chen, I said through the intercom. Wake up slowly. Don't make sudden movements. You have an apex predator in your bed, I know. Chen's sleepy voice came back. Pudding got lonely and wanted company. I let Pudding out, you let it out, Thorne repeated dangerously. You disabled containment systems and released a dangerous life form without authorization. Engineer Chen, that's grounds for disciplinary action up to and including removal from duty. Pudding was distressed, Chen said, sitting up and stroking the creature's head. I could hear it through the walls, making stressed vocalizations. It was lonely and scared and I couldn't just leave it locked up in that cell when I could help. It's a research specimen, I protested. It needs to be contained for proper study and for crew safety. It's a living being that deserves compassion, Chen countered. And it's clearly not dangerous to people it trusts. Look at Pudding. Does this look like a threat to you? Pudding was indeed looking extremely non-threatening, still making that purring sound, its 6 eyes half closed in contentment, its body relaxed against Chen in a posture that suggested complete trust and comfort. The fact that it's not currently attacking doesn't mean it's safe, Thorne said. Predators are unpredictable. It could turn violent at any moment, so could I, Chen said. So could you. So could anyone on this ship if pushed hard enough. Being capable of violence doesn't make something evil or automatically dangerous. Pudding has shown consistent friendly behavior toward me for almost 2 weeks. That's enough data to establish a pattern. 2 weeks is not enough time to understand an alien species' behavioral patterns, I said. We need months of observation, controlled studies, proper analysis before making conclusions about its nature, or, Chen said, we could trust what it's showing us right now. That it's social, affectionate, and wants companionship. That it responds positively to kindness. That it's more than just a specimen for study, it's an intelligent being deserving respect and friendship. The standoff continued for another hour, with security teams surrounding Chen's quarters, arguing about proper protocols and appropriate treatment of dangerous life forms. Eventually a compromise was reached. Pudding could remain with Chen, but Chen took full responsibility for its behavior, would implement safety measures to ensure crew protection, and would allow continued research observation of their interaction. Over the following weeks, Pudding became something of a ship mascot. It followed Chen everywhere, staying close like a devoted companion, making the purring sound whenever Chen was near, and generally behaving nothing like the terrifying predator we had initially captured. But Pudding also demonstrated why Chen's trust was well placed and my initial fears were overblown. When a critical coolant line ruptured in engineering, releasing toxic vapor that would have killed Chen within minutes, Pudding reacted instantly. It grabbed Chen by the uniform and dragged the human to safety, then stood between Chen and the hazard, spines raised, clearly protecting its adopted person from danger. When pirates attempted to board the ship during a supply run, Pudding was the first line of defense, launching those toxin-coated spines with devastating accuracy, dropping 3 boarders before security could even respond. The pirates took one look at what they assumed was some kind of human war beast and retreated immediately. And when I collapsed from exhaustion after working triple shifts during a research crisis, Pudding found me, alerted Chen to my location, and stayed with me until medical help arrived. Kept me warm using its own body heat, made soothing sounds that somehow helped me stay calm, and generally demonstrated the kind of care that I had insisted it was incapable of. You were right, I told Chen later, after recovering. About Pudding, about its capacity for social bonding, about everything. I let my fear of predators override my scientific objectivity. That was a failure of research methodology on my part. You were also right though, Chen said. Pudding is dangerous. Those are facts. But dangerous doesn't mean bad, and being a predator doesn't mean incapable of love or friendship or loyalty. Earth taught humans that lesson over thousands of years. We domesticated wolves into dogs, turned wild cats into house pets, formed bonds with creatures that could absolutely kill us but chose not to because we offered them something better than violence. What did you offer them? Partnership, Chen said simply. Mutual benefit, companionship, respect. Predators are intelligent, they can understand cooperation when it's offered genuinely. Pudding understands that I'm not prey or threat, I'm friend. That changes everything about how Pudding interacts with me, and now Pudding protects you, and now Pudding protects everyone, Chen corrected. Pudding doesn't just bond with individuals, Pudding has adopted the whole crew as pack. That's what social predators do, they form groups for mutual benefit and protection. We're Pudding's pack now. I thought about that over the following months as Pudding became fully integrated into ship life. Thought about how my initial assessment had been based on fear rather than curiosity, how I had let assumptions about predator behavior prevent me from seeing the creature's actual nature, how a human engineer with no formal xenobiology training had understood something about alien life that I had completely missed. Pudding was dangerous, absolutely. Those teeth, those claws, those toxin spines, all very real threats. But Pudding was also loyal, affectionate, protective, intelligent, and apparently capable of forming deep bonds with other species. Those capabilities coexisted with the dangerous ones, not in contradiction but in cooperation. The crew feared the new alien predator until the human fed it snacks and named it Pudding. Then they learned what humans had apparently understood for thousands of years, that predators were capable of more than violence, that intelligence and social capacity transcended biological imperatives, that friendship was possible even across enormous evolutionary distances when offered with genuine respect and kindness. My name is Vrek, and I used to think I understood dangerous life forms because I studied their capacity to kill. Now I understand that danger is just one aspect of a creature's nature, and often not the most important one. The most important aspects are intelligence, social capacity, willingness to form bonds, and desire for connection. Pudding has all of those, along with the ability to launch toxin-coated spines and tear through hull plating, and somehow that combination works perfectly because the dangerous capabilities serve to protect the social bonds rather than threaten them. Engineer Chen taught me that lesson by doing something that seemed insane, befriending an apex predator through nothing but patience, kindness, and synthesized meat snacks. And somehow that insane approach worked better than all my scientific protocols and safety procedures, because Chen understood something fundamental that I had missed. Living things want connection more than they want violence, even when they're very, very good at violence. Now when we encounter potentially dangerous life forms during our surveys, I always ask Chen's opinion before making final assessments. Because Chen sees possibility where I see threat, sees friendship where I see danger, and has an apparently supernatural ability to turn terrifying predators into ship mascots through the power of snacks and affection and absolutely zero functional survival instincts. And I've learned to fear the human more than any alien predator, because the human will absolutely attempt to befriend anything regardless of danger level, and somehow succeed more often than not, leaving the rest of us to adjust our threat assessments and accept that our ship now includes crew members with 6 eyes, retractable claws, and names like Pudding who purr when you scratch their belly and launch toxin spines at anyone who threatens their adopted pack. The galaxy makes a lot more sense when you accept that humans are going to human regardless of safety protocols, and sometimes their completely unhinged approach to interspecies relations produces better results than careful scientific methodology. Pudding is living proof of that principle, currently curled up in engineering making that rumbling purr sound while Chen works, serving as both deadly guardian and affectionate companion, demonstrating every day that the crew's initial fear was both completely justified and entirely missing the point. We were right to fear the predator. We just should have also been prepared to love it once a human decided it needed a friend and some snacks and a name that made absolutely no sense but somehow fit perfectly once you understood that humans see the world differently than everyone else, and sometimes their perspective reveals truths that scientific analysis misses completely.